he knew exactly what was wrong with the truck. And that made it worse. It needed one small part. Just one. He could install it himself, but he couldn't buy it. He emptied his pocket onto the porch, then counted the coins, then counted them again. Still not enough. Across the yard, the truck sat silent. Inside the house, his children were eating supper. They thought tomorrow would be normal. They were wrong. Because if that truck didn't move in the morning, neither would he. No work, no wages, no groceries. So he said nothing. He smiled at the table. He listened to his children talk. And all the while, he was staring at a future he couldn't afford. Have you ever watched a problem destroy your life while knowing exactly how to stop it? That was the Great Depression. Millions of fathers were not defeated by ignorance. They were defeated by empty pockets. And tomorrow was coming anyway. Today, a broken vehicle is frustrating. Back then, it could be terrifying. For many families, the truck was not transportation. It was income. It carried workers to factories, farmers to market, tools to job sites. Without it, money stopped moving. A man could lose a week's wages because of a part smaller than his hand. The worst part? The bills did not care. Rent was still due. Food still had to be bought. Children still needed shoes. The truck sat still. Life did not. That is why so many men kept driving vehicles that should have been retired years earlier. Worn tires, leaking radiators, failing brakes. Anything that could wait was forced to wait. Every strange noise raised the same question. Would this be the breakdown they could not survive? Because once the truck stopped, the real trouble was only beginning. When the money ran out, creativity took over. People repaired trucks with whatever they could find. A piece of wire, a strip of leather, a bolt taken from another machine. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was thrown away. Old vehicles became parts warehouses. A broken truck might keep 3 others running. Neighbors traded tools, shared spare parts, passed along repair tricks. Many drivers became mechanics, whether they wanted to or not. Because hiring a mechanic was often impossible. The next repair might cost a week's food. So they improvised, again and again. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. And every mile became a gamble. Every trip to work, every trip to town, every trip home. One failure could leave a family stranded with no income and no way forward. Yet people kept driving, not because they trusted the truck, because they had no choice. Sooner or later, every family reached the same point. There was not enough money for everything. Something had to lose. Sometimes it was the truck. Sometimes it was something else. A new coat could wait. A pair of shoes could wait. A visit to the doctor could wait. People learned to postpone almost everything. But problems never stopped arriving. One repair bill could consume money meant for food. One set of tires could erase months of savings. And every choice created another problem. Fix the truck, and the pantry gets emptier. Buy groceries, and the truck gets closer to failure. There was no perfect answer, only consequences. That is what made those years so difficult. People were not choosing between good and bad. They were choosing between bad and worse. And many children never realized how many sacrifices had been made on their behalf. Because the adults rarely talked about them. They simply carried the burden and kept moving. Years later, many children remembered the truck. They remembered the sound of the engine, the rides into town, the long roads, the family trips. What they often did not remember were the sacrifices behind those memories. The meals their parents skipped, the purchases they postponed, the worries they carried in silence. To a child, the truck was just a truck. To a father, it was something else. It was a paycheck, a pantry, a roof, a chance to keep the family together for one more week. That is why a single repair bill could feel so frightening. The cost was never measured only in dollars. It was measured in what had to be given up to pay it. And that is what many people today forget about the Great Depression. The hardest part was not always the breakdown. It was knowing exactly what needed to be done and having no way to do it. The truck could be repaired. Finding the money was the real problem. And for millions of Americans, that problem never truly went away.